This conference will now be recorded.
So, good morning to all of you again. And this is Mahesh Kumawat, and today we are just going to start some security and identity compliance. This is a new topic we have just covered, and into this security topics, we just have to cover the security, identity, access management, cognito, and the inspector, key management service, and resource access manager, and the shield or key management service sort of things. Inspector also we have included in. So. And these is the requirement of your how do you use it as your how is your cloud AWS is what secure, and how the user is identified once he's logged into the AWS environment, and how it is compliance like ISO 27000 sort of things, and is there any troubleshooting sort of things, and then you can just go for the compliance sort of things. So these are the some important things you will have to cover it. Okay. So if you just click on a particular sort of link for AWS, and then you will just find out exactly the all sort of things like this is IAM policies, and this is your AWS single sign-on. You will just find out, and then WAF is also you just find out all sort of the documentation part of the AWS, right? All the topics which are discussed here right now. So we will have to go into this our slides. So that is second. Yes. So are you able to see the screen of my sub Adobe Reader? Okay, so this is the basically agenda. The topic is basically IAM. We are just going to discuss into this. So what is IAM and what to do right after the creating a AWS account, and what are the main components of IAM? Right, this is the basic sort of things we need to understand, or what not to do with, and don't be that person and company, and immediate intermediate least privileged access permissions, how to manage distribute AWS credentials, and how to write code that auto discovers auto AWS creds and AWS service that support IAM, and that what level, and advanced temporary credentials, avoiding long-lived creds, and AWS account federation SSO. So we are just going to cover all sort of things into this next slides. So the AWS IAM is basically identity and access management, and is an AWS service that enables you to provide fine-grained access control to integrate with the AWS services to behalf of your AWS account, integrate with the AWS resources created in your AWS account. The main components are is basically IAM users. We have to just create number of users into this, and then we have to create some groups of this IAM groups, and then we have to provide some roles to the users, right? And then we have to create some policies like that. So these are the four main components of the IAM we're just talking about later on the slides. And in the once you created any account on the first time on this IAM or the free tier, this is the root account, right? And then we have created different number of user accounts, so for the users can be login. So we have different users we can create into this and different SML authentication sort of things, and then we have to map with all the users with the particular specific groups. If you're working in the domain control environment, then the number of users we can create, and then we have to map with the different groups, like, and then we have to provide some roles on the particular groups. Okay, and we can also provide some different roles to the users as well, and we can map this policy different policies to the different groups and users in same time, right? So the main motive is basically is here to how can a user can access the AWS account, different resources. So suppose you are working in a corporate environment, and then there are a number of departments in your company. Development, operation department, DevOps department, purchase, sales, and different departments, and they have different requirement of AWS, different instances and services. Like, suppose if we are talking about some development sort of work done by some your DevOps engineers, So what the um, solution architect person what need to do it, he is providing some different roles to the DevOps engineer, and then he can just provide it to is to the particular engineer same time. So the DevOps suppose in the AWS environment, AWS solution architect provide a light shell services to the DevOps engineer same time. So the DevOps engineer, he will just write a code into the AWS environment of a light shell. He just create instances, and he can just test the code, and then he can just shut down the light shell services. And the another example of this particular thing is um, uh, solution architect will provide a elastic band stick and the lambda services to the DevOps engineer. The DevOps engineer will just provide a package uploading into this lambda or AWS environment, and then he just test the all sort of code, or he just check all sort of works into this package which he are going to implement in the production environment, and then he can just shut down the services of the lambda or elastic band stick. So these are the some different rules and the different users he can create, and different groupings sort of things we can create in, and we can provide some different policies into this IAM. Okay, so we just move further. So the IAM rules can have a username, password, login to the AWS console, right? You can have AWS credentials to making API calls to interact with the AWS services, right? So they are the different APIs are need to call, right? The username, password we have to provide into the IAM users, right? New IAM users have no permissions to do anything. Implicit and deny all permissions must be explicitly granted. So you have to provide the different specific permissions, right? And to the different users, right? And the NIAM users doesn't necessarily have to represent an actual person. The NIM user is really just an entity with associated permissions, right? NIM users with only AWS credentials can be created, so the credentials can be used by an applications to make API calls into AWS. So the first thing is this in the IAM we have created a different number of users has the username and password, and then you got have specific username as per you, and the username have mapped to the different specific AWS ID same time, right? Once we're going for the practical sort of things in the next few classes, then we have to come to know that what is all about. But the concept is basically you have just create a number of users inside this and provide some specific passwords, and we have to map some different permissions to the particular users at the same time. Okay, and the IAM user doesn't have necessarily have to represent actual person. We have different IDs, and in the what the IAM users are associated with AWS different accounts, and then the APIs are calls into the AWS account. So that is all about the users sort of things. So IAM groups, we are just talking about some grouping as well. So a collection of IAM users. So suppose you have in your different team have different members. Okay, so like HR department have 15 users, and purchase and sales and DevOps and the testing environment, QA environment have different number of users, more than 20, 30, 40. So it is very uh, uh, taking lots of time to providing a specific permissions on the specific user same time. So what we can do it just like in a domain environment, we have creating a specific groups, and we have add number of groups to the different departments or different groups, and then we can provide specific permissions on the groups. So same thing is in this IAM environment as well. So a collection of IAM users, right? You assign permissions to IAM group. All IAM users in the group inherit those permissions, right? So whatever the permissions you have provided on the groups, if the permissions are inherited on the user same time, and implicit deny all permissions applies to IAM groups as well. So you have to allow what sort of permissions. By default, it is deny sort of things is available in the grouping things, right? So you can just create a groups. First of all, create a users, and then we have to map all the users into the groups, and you can have to and provide different permissions, user specific and group specific sort of things. Then we're just talking about the IAM roles, and profiles. The IAM roles defines permissions much like an IAM user. The IAM roles do not have username password like an IAM user can. AWS credentials that can be retrieved like a IAM user creds. So you have a specific rules you have to provide, right, of the particular users like that, and that the permissions of the IAM role can be granted assigned to an AC2 instances. An instance profiles is just a container for the one or more IAM roles and instance profile is what you actually assign to an EC2 instances. So you have different yeah, mapping with the different users, and then we have to providing some different permissions and rules to the different users, and then you can use it for different use cases like EC2 instances and EBS volumes, RDS, different things. You can just open it. So you have once you're going for the in the IAM, you have find a number of rules into the IAM, then you can provide different rules to the users same time. IAM roles and instance profiles provide enhanced security because these structures provide temporary AWS credentials, right? These temporary credentials are made available by the EC2 metadata service more than IAM roles and letters. So you have specific options available that you can provide a temporary credentials for the AWS IAM user so that he can just use temporarily password, and then you can just provide some permanent password once the user is required, right? And these are the different roles you can just provide it if you're just talking about the roles sort of thing. So that uh, in the domain control environment, if you have worked on the active directory sort of things, then you have to provide different rules for different users. Suppose this is a backup user, this is the administrative accessible user, and this is some different you know what uh, different roles for different users. So as per the user requirement, right, you can just provide different roles in the same sort of things in the AWS environment as well. So IAM policies, you can also provide some policies into this IAM. When you create an IAM group user and roles in your AWS account, you associate an IAM policy with it, which specifies the permissions that you want to grant. IAM policies are JSON formatted document that define AWS permissions working with IAM policies. So what you're going to do it, first of all, you just create a number of users, right? And then you just map with the different users in different group same times. Then you can just provide some different roles to a different users. Suppose this is a backup user, this is an administrative user, so and then this is what a different administrative sort of things he can do it. And then you can just provide some IAM policies as per the requirement. Suppose this user has some permissions on the EC2 instances, but he doesn't have the permissions of the S3 bucket sort of things. Suppose a user have required some RDS database access of, or you suppose a person in your company is looking care of your database sort of things. He requires some RDS and Quora or different Quora services sort of things. You can just provide some permissions, but you cannot provide the permissions on the S3 bucket, or you can just provide not providing any permissions on the EC2 sort of things. So those sort of policies, you can just map the different number of users and groups same times. So it is very easy to manage, and then it is very compliance. So suppose your company's ISO audit is going on, then they will just take a look at what type of permissions and policies you have provided. So you have specific users have different specific permissions are available same time. So it is very important scenario that time. So you can provide some policies, and you can some sort of commands you can allow, some sort of commands you can deny. Suppose the database administrator uh, uh, don't have what allowed on the delete the data, remove the data sort of things. So you can just block sort of things, and you can just allow to take the backup of your data at the same time. So that is all about the policies. You can just map the different users and groups same time, and it is JSON sort of formatted is available, so you can just go for the documentation part of this particular thing. So move further. So security first for new AWS account. So AWS root account, once you created any account, right? First time, so it's your root account, right? So it is not not advisable to log into your corporate environment. Always log into the root account. So you had so what you're going to do it, you have to create different number of users, and then you can log in with your different IAM accounts. Store username password somewhere safe and use secure. Set up multi-factor authentication. So MFA is just come to the picture right now. So you can have some what different multi-factor authentications like SML or SSO sort of things, right? Create IAM users with the least privileges necessary, least privileges only the permissions necessary for accomplish needed tasks. After IAM users have been created, never use root account again, right? So the root account is basically it's like your administrator account in your we can say that. So first of all, once you create a free tier account, you have a root account, and then you have created a number of different IAM users. Then you can just log into the IAM users account. So it is what once you're going for the cloud trace sort of things, then you can just easily identify that which was the account which is login and what's going on and what was the time. So it is very easy to troubleshoot same time, right? And you are just provide some different roles to the different IAM users, so that it is very easy that he cannot do some sort of things, and he can just allow and deny sort of things same time. After IAM users have been created, will never use root account again, right? We have done it. If an IAM users have username password for AWS console login, then they should also have multi-factor authentications enabled. So you can now also enable the multi-factor authentication same times, like SSO and SAML, different sort of things. Suppose because they are different systems you are just going to log in with the AWS account, the Linux environment, the Mac Sierra environment, and also the Windows environment. Different environments are available. So okay, and you have different mechanism of authentication same time. So you have used the MFA environment same times. If you don't want to some users having access to billing, so it is also important because you are just providing some sort of allow access to the billing sort of things on the AWS account, and rest of the users we don't have to allow the billing see show sort of things to the users, right? IAM controls the key to the AWS kingdom. So the key management systems we will just talking about later on the slide, the KMS, key management system. So you can just have a what kingdom users doing the sort of things. Only highly privileged users should have permissions to perform IAM actions. Okay, so you can have different privileges you have to provide to the different number of users, so that they can just take a look and that what's going on and what needs to be done, right? Getting AWS credentials into EC2 instances, right? So another aspect is we're just talking about always use an IAM role instance profile, right? So IAM role is basically you just integrate with the EC2 instances same time, right? Okay, never ever self-managed credentials for EC2 instances, environment variables, etc. So you have just your system architect will provide the permissions and the providing the KMS password and credentials to the EC2 instances always, because you have different teams are available and they have doing different sort of things. So the system architect will provide different IAM roles and different what profiles to the team, and then they will just log into the same some sort of things. Put put AWS credentials into source code or config files. So you can just provide your credentials of source code and the config files. Don't make yourself or company a victim like these guys. Key serping bots crawl GitHub use credentials to run EC2 instances for Bitcoin mining. So these are the some what the companies have to go out of the business because they are careless with the AWS credentials. So you have to just make some what carrying sort of things that you don't have to put all sort of username and password key password or credentials into the GitHub sort of environment, and then you have the Bitcoin sort of environments. So you will be what very careful that time, right? You don't have to use this provide store your password into the GitHub environment and different environments, so that easily can accessible from anybody. uh, Getting credentials into EC2 instances. So use IAM instance profile assigned with the EC2 instances. Okay, so we have different profiles are created for these EC2 instances. Suppose in the EC2 instances, what the different users can do it, right? He can just terminate the machine, he can just stop the machine, he can just provides ABS volume snapshot sort of things, and he can do different sort of things for different profiles. So you can just map with a different profile. We can map with different permissions same times. An instance profile is created from the IAM role. The instances profile must be assigned with the EC2 instances when it was launched. So profile must be assigned, right? The once you created the user into the IAM, then there's a specific profile you have created, right? And then you can just map with particular profile with the different resources of the AWS account. So in this we are just talking about the EC2 instances, and we have launched. So he can just launch the EC2 instances, but he cannot uh, read the machine same time. Wait a second. AWS credentials retrieved through the EC2 metadata service, and these are the some um, locations are available from the as suggested by the AWS teams. You can just find out where the region metadata of the EC2 instances. These temporary credentials never have to be shared or managed by the developer. So you just providing the credentials to the developers, but you provide some temporary sort of things and never be shared with anyone. These temporary AWS credentials are automatically rotated, so instance always valid credentials. So you have just provided some valid credentials for the same time, right? So you have this different documentation of the IAM. So you can just take a look. I will just share it on this. How can code use instance profile credentials? So you have a specific course, different course. You can just go for it. So there are the different ways we can just log into the log into the EC2 instances. So old AWS SDK software development kits have a built in the way to auto discover AWS credentials on the EC2 instances, and simplifies code by not having explicitly set AWS credentials. So you can just use the SDK to log into the EC2 instances. You have a CLI mode, command line interface to log into the EC2 instances. You have a web interface. You can log into the EC2 instances. Okay, so you have different ways to create log into the EC2 instances. And once you created the IAM users on the AWS account. The SDKs are all languages can be automatically checked and standard local locations for AWS credentials to use. Environment variables, AWS access key ID, and AWS secret key legacy not recommended anytime, right? So a SDK software development kit is also available on the different languages. Suppose the number of users are different regions are available, okay, and they have using the same sort of instances at the same times. Suppose the China region users are use their Chinese SDK to log into the EC2 instances, and different region and different languages are available, so that your work is has to be done on the same time. Okay, and this is environment variables, so you have to provide some AWS access key ID. This is a specific ID of the particular EC2 instances or different users, so he can use the specific access ID to log into the systems, and it is also a secret key legacy. Okay, credentials file at the default location. So there are some default locations slash AWS slash credentials shared by all AWS SDKs and AWS CLI. Okay, great for application scripts and being outside of AWS. Instance profile credentials delivered through the Amazon EC2 metadata service best practice. So you can go for it. Example SDK, as Java SDK docs, which is requirement for credentials auto discovery mode. So these are some. So the matter of fact that you can have just different ways to log into the EC2 instances. So SDK, CLI, web interface, and you can also log into the SSH of the Linux machine same times if you have a specific IAM user ID. Okay, so local development, if you are running a scripts on and or applications locally, not needs to call AWS APIs, then store AWS credentials in the AWS credentials file. So if you are working on the local development sort of things, and then you don't need to call to the AWS API for the sort of things, right? allow you to define multiple sets of credentials, each identified by profile name. So different credentials, different AWS account ID, different profiles are created same time. So these are the mapped with the different account IDs or different profile name. So profile name it says that IAM usernames. A default profile name can be defined as so profile doesn't have to be specified in your code and script. AWS CLI command line you can also use for the same sort of things. Okay, IAM least privilege rights. Anything with the AWS access should have the minimal rights. It needs to accomplish its specific actions. Okay, anything with the AWS access refers to the following: IAM users or groups. You can just create sort of things, and then you need to go for the IAM roles can be assumed by the users, and users instance profiles can be assigned to EC2 instances as your applications or scripts which use IAM roles or user credentials. So these are the what is best practices. So you can just go for it, and these are the some different users have different ID, groups have different IDs and different roles and different things. You can just provide different tools. You can provide for different instances, profiles, sort of things. Suppose EC2 instances have different rules, providing to the different users and different groups. So that sort of things you can just provide. So IAM roles can be assumed by the end users and by the end users, right? Suppose the development operations have different team are available, right? uh, and development operations require only EC2 instances. Okay, and they don't you don't want to you don't as a system architect don't want that he will just log into the AWS console. So he can just provide the AWS light shell sort of profiles to the specific user, and then the development operations user can log in with his AWS account ID and password, and then he just directly move to the light shell sort of things. So he can just create the instances. He can test the code, and he can shut down the machine same times. So the development operations users cannot go to the different console of the AWS services resources at the same time. Okay, so different rules you can just provide it to different users same time, and different permissions you can just provide it same sort of things, and this things also applied on the groups as well. Example, if an application only needs read access to the file in S3, then create an IAM role with only get object right at S3. This is also one of the examples that then one of the user from the backup or different users, and he requires some what S3 bucket only, right? He can just read files on the S3 bucket, and we can also provide the get object what roles to the particular user, and then he can just read on the permissions to the S3 bucket. So that is a granular permissions and the roles we can provide to the different users, and that is the beauty about this IAM on the AWS. So these are the some policies. Once you created the policies, and these are some sort of coding is written at the back end of this particular AWS. So you can just have this what type of permissions they get, object permissions and delete object permission and put object. So the users can allow the permissions, and he can just provide some put some different object into the S3 bucket, and he can also get objects. So he can just delete the object, and he can also delete the object same times, and the object name is test here, and but the version is 20, the created on the same sort of things, and this is allow permissions. Okay, and the resource is the test name is resources. So you have to understand this, what is the code behind it once it is because in the web console you have this, take a look that all sort of things are in front of you, but in the backend there are some coding is working behind it. So you can just log into the CLI mode. You can using the SDK software development kit, and you can just read the code, and you can just understand what's going on with this particular things, and you can just troubleshoot at the same time. Okay, Amazon resource names. So ARN is also important. So ARNs are unique identifiers for AWS resources. Format of ARN is basically it's the ARN, then like a partition, service, regions, account ID, and the resource name. So these are the like Amazon resource names, and then you can just different partitions, different services. Suppose you're going for the S3 bucket sort of things, you're going for the ABS, EBS sort of things, RDA sort of things, and different, and then the static sort of things. So the partition, which partition we're talking about, the which service, the S3 EBS, what type of service is all about, then the region, which region is resides, okay, then the account ID we are just talking about in this users, IAM users, different user ID, and that what type of resources he can access same time. So this is very important to understand that what is AR, then Amazon resource names, and then how it is identified, because it is very important once we're going for the troubleshooting or sort of things, and we have to identify that what's going on, and what type of services, what type of account ID is providing, and then what type of resources are available, and which regions we are talking about, which service is basically is we have to just talking about, and also which kind of partitions, also sort of things. So you are just understand any sort of things we are creating into the AWS resource, right? There is specific the number is automatically created, and then you can just going for what is inside and what we're going to do it. So elements of an IAM policy, you can just provide the policies to different users groups. Some main elements of an IAM policy is version, what type of version, and and second thing is statement. Main elements of the policies and the contents are the array of the statement. Whatever statement we can just provide it. Each statement defines whether permissions are allowed or denied, right, of certain service actions against critical resources. These are defined by the values of following elements of each statement. So effect, allow or deny, we can go for it. The actions, array of service actions, what type of actions need to be taken. The resource is basically array of ARN that actions can be occur on, and the principle identifies who's what is allowed and what is denied, sort of things. So you the policy of the IAM, we can say that is basically depend on the two things, the version and the statement, and the which we're talking about. Statement is basically what type of actions he have the allowed, or we have to deny access of the particular user. Second thing, what actions, if he allowed, then what actions he can just carry out, right? What actions he can just delete the S3 bucket, he can allow, he can read the S3 bucket, or he can just write some sort of things in the S3 bucket, right? So get, put, or delete sort of things, okay. And then you can the source, what where and what of where it is, the location, and what is the access ID of the identified ID of the particular user, and then what type of resources he can available, set some sort of things, right? So that sort of things you can just easily understand what's going on behind it. So this is a very technical things at the back end is going on. So you have just read a code of the backend, and then you can identify that what's going on. This is sort of things, and if you are working on the CLI mode, that will be really helpful to any sort of things to identify that what's going on, and where we have to go to what check sort of things. So advanced uses of IAM roles. IAM roles can be assumed by IAM users at the same and different AWS accounts. So you have different account as well, right? And so you can just use it. AWS service EC2 instances are even another IAM role. So we have different IAM roles providing for different EC2 instances sort of things. External users authenticated outside of AWS Federation ID. So you have options available into this AWS IAM that the outside of the users can also access the AWS resources, right? So you have to go for the federation sort of things in the AWS. IAM roles provide enhanced security, right? Temporary credentials, if created, do get compromised. They don't want to be valid for long. Uh, Long-lived credentials are bad. Okay, so you have to just once you is going for the provide a password to the users, you have to provide some temporary password to the users, right? And some after some time it will be expired, and then the user will require some new password same times. If you provide some long-lived password, then there's a bad sort of things, right? And users can be logged into the AWS console without username and password. That is also the incorrect sort of things. And temporary credentials plus least privileged permissions you can just provide. So what is the best practice to provide a user's password? First of all, provide a temporary password and provide some least privileges permissions on the cloud, AWS cloud. So that is there's a, no hacking sort of things has happened. There is no attacks has been done by anyone. Okay, so AWS Federations, like the users are is not from your company and not from your environment. He had different clients, right? Client side, users would like to log into the your AWS environment. So what is the scenario? What things need to do it? So my real world scenario is my main AWS account, because we have in the corporate environment, and we have different AWS accounts, right? And many users needing access to one or more AWS accounts, right? That is also important, because if you have different clients and you have different AWS account you have created for them, and their AWS status requires some different access for the different servers, different instances, different storage, different database sort of things, then what you need to do it. Management of many of the same IAM users and groups access many AWS accounts, right? So equals maintenance a nightmare, potential of security elapses when employees leaves company. What AWS accounts did not employ they have access to, right? And I have to delete IAM users from the each AWS account. So you have to just delete, and we have to what AWS account did the employee have access to, what kind of access they need to provide, right? Most mid of the large companies have a central identity provider, Active and Federation could also use as a social local providers. So suppose your company, you're working in the corporate environment, there's Active Directory comes to the picture, and also the Federation, also in the social login sort of providing. Suppose you can just log in with your LinkedIn sort of ID and password sort of things into the Federation services sort of things, and you have Active Directory, so you are just going for the SSO single sign on sort of things, so that one password can use any different type of applications. So these are the some Federation services you can just use at same times. Okay, so the your one password can be used for different accounts same time. So you have to map with your Active Directory to with your AWS account same time. Like you have to sync your different your Active Domain Controller with your AWS account. The example is basically suppose the Office 365 environment with Active Directory environment. So once the user is created on the Active Directory environment, it is synchronized with the Office 365 environment. Then it will the users can access this different type of services like SharePoint or add Outlook and Excel, what different services. So same thing is in the AWS Federation sort of things. Suppose you have to integrate, you have to sync your Active Directory accounts to the AWS Federation services. Then you just one password can use for different accounts same time. So continued we is into this, right? We took at a web application that uses SSO, right? Single sign-on application via SML. This is the protocol of Active Directory, okay, to kind of authenticate with the our corporation Active Directory. So that's in AWS on EC2 instances with instance profile that writes to the assume roles. So the name is assume roles. The IAM roles that can be assumed can exist in any AWS account is as long as a trust relationship is created, right? So if we have to just create a trust and relationship with the different with the AWS to the Active Directory, right? The IAM roles are kept track in the applications database for each user. For this web application, zero or more IAM roles can be mapped to a user. The applications can then retrieve temporary credentials for the role on behalf of the user's web application. AWS credentials can be returned to the user for local use. Okay, so this is also we can use for the local sort of use. AWS console access can be granted based on the permissions of the IAM roles. So AWS is always provided granted access on the permission based on the IAM roles. What is the profile? Suppose you have just created a user first of all in the AWS environment, then you just provide some grouping sort of things, and then provide some what different rules, and then provide some different policies. So the IAM rules, what are the IAM rules we have provided, and different permissions you can just grant it on the AWS console same time. So simplified solutions, what you need to do it here: delete all IAM users across all the AWS accounts. Okay, replace all IAM groups and IAM roles with each AWS account, and one set of users, web applications users, that can be granted access to any IAM role from any AWS account. Efficiency security: if a user leaves the company, they are removed from corporate Active Directory, no longer have access to the web applications, and therefore no more access to the any AWS accounts. temporary AWS credentials only one last 1 hour. AWS allowed maximum for now. Suppose so in this we are just talking about, suppose if a user from the database side of your company and he just going to leave the company. So what you're going to do it? Suppose your SSO, your Active Directory is what synced with the AWS account. So first of all, you need to what you need going to do it. Uh, in the AWS side, as a solution architect, what he's going to do it, first of all, he just remove the IAM users from the AWS account, and he just remove the some permissions. He just remove the profile sort of things, and he can just remove the corporate ID from the Active Directory, so there is no syncing again. And he also just provides some the temporary credentials for the 1 hour if their users is want to log in same times. So that's the that sort of security solutions we provide on the AWS cloud side. So there is no problem after that. So AWS Console Federation's username, so you can have different federations rules. So federated login identified users name and the IAM rules that was used plus with the specified identifier. So you can it is a cutoff in this image in the automation federation tools, automated admins, and the so this is basically automated automation federation tools. You can just provide on different regions it is talking about. So the federation username is basically it is used for syncing once your account is synced with a different Active Directory or domain controller or different the domain controller side, and then here is federation with your AWS account, and then you need to remove you have to create some sort of things. Right, AWS Federation's local development with temporary credentials. You just provide some temporary credentials to the your development team same time. So it is a pain. It is a pain for developers and cloud administrators to work locally, right? So it's a pain for the developers and the cloud administrators to work locally when AWS credentials expire, right? Every hour have to retrieve new AWS credentials from web applications, copy, paste them into local AWS credentials or files. So what happened actually in the corporate environment? Suppose you provide it the password, user credentials, AWS credentials to the development of developers in your company, and the developers you just provides 1 hour, 2 hour, or 3 hour access to the on the AWS account, right? And once it is expired of the password of the AWS, right? Then what he going to do it? So we have to just provide a copy paste into the same credentials, and he isn't login. So what we're going to do it? Wrote a small GUI tool, right? Local thick line, since it is needs to be typed in the file system. User authenticates with the same web application using SSO still to retrieve new credentials on hourly schedule from web application REST APIs. Write these AWS credentials to a local AWS credentials files. Tool always users to retrieve credentials for 0 or more IAM roles. They are allowed to use a credentials profile name can be assigned with each new nw.js build client and node WebKit and single code base and complies with the self-executed or platforms Linux, Mac, and Windows, and no runtime dependency on GRE, Python, and etc. So just down and run. So what you're going to do with the solutions, basically you just create a script file, and then you can just put the script file into the particular AWS account, okay, in the tool, and then once it is your password is expired, and then the same thing is call for the API, and the API will provide your password for the again for the 2 or 3 hours same times. So that is all about the logic behind it. First of all, you have to create a script file. Then in the script file you could just provide the 1 or 2 hours sort of scripting into this, and then script file is running, and then again it is again the developers got the 2 or 3 or 6 hours whatever the timing would be. He just to log into the AWS credentials same time. So this is the temporary credentials we can just providing through a simply creating a script file, and he can just authentication again, and we have some SSO single sign on tools. We can use it same time, right? Suppose it is like SSO sort of things, and he can just take the password same time. So it is more secure, the more we can permanent solutions we can just provide it, and that we don't want to provide any the permanent password as and ID, so that he can just share to a different person, and then it will be what problems in our cloud environment, so that we can provide always with temporary credentials, and temporary credentials we have to provide some sort of solutions on the GI tools same time. Okay, so this is the end of this particular IAM roles. So tomorrow I think we should cover some more um, uh, sort of things, right? We're just talking about this. Wait a second. So today we have just covered some the identity and access management, and tomorrow we just covered some more services, because there's a short duration of time we have. So we have started going for the cognitive inspector and key KMS sort of things, and other stuff as well. So any doubts in this, you can just ask me right away, and then we have just wrap up the class today. So any doubts in this?
It's okay.
Okay, so thank you much for your joining today, and uh, once we're going for the the practical sort of things of identity access management, it looks very easy, but the matter of fact that you need to understand all the concept behind it, what's going on, because once you understand the logic behind it of the identity and security and access management, it is really helpful to you, because you have just worked on the AWS console all the time, right? But you need to understand what's going on at the back end. If any issues has been happened, then what if you're working as a corporate solution architect in your company, then you need to understand what sort of troubleshooting need to go for it, which things are writing, and what sort of permissions, where we have to check what sort of scenarios we are talking about. So we have to understand all sort of scenarios, troubleshooting approach, how it is working, how we can just effectively manage our AWS environments and all the time. That is really important for you to understand sort of things, right? So this is the security sort of thing. So we have to just most emphasize on the security part, because it is very important. And once you're going for any interviews or anywhere, it is really, they will ask you one question definitely for the security sort of things, right? So you have to just very uh, mm, confidence once you're talking about the security part of any cloud, right? So thank you for your time, and then we will joining tomorrow at 7 a.m. Right? Thank you for your time.